Okay, so the semifinal period shall be started with the topic law. Okay, so the first topic of our semifinal period again is all about law, and I know that you already have the idea what is law, what law is all about. So this topic may just be a sort of a review, and throughout the lesson, I will discuss about its definition or the definition of the law and its relevance to us, and of course, the ethical significance to us. So, according to Thomas Aquinas, law is an ordinance of reason promulgated for the common good by one who has charge of society. Now, let's dig deeper what Aquinas' definition of law. Let us know what he meant by law is an ordinance of reason, what he meant by this term promulgated or the terms promulgated for the common good, and by what he meant by the one who has charge of society. So let's start with the ordinance of reason. Aquinas said that a law is an ordinance of reason. When we say ordinance, it means an authoritative order or it is a decree, which means it is something legit and must be given importance by, let's say, a group of people under the law or the society under the law because they are rational deliberations intended to guide men towards what is good for them and for the society. Now, who is the society? Of course, we are the society. And an example of this ordinance or law here in the Philippines is the Republic Act number 9775. This is the Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009. And when we are talking about, or if we are talking about the objective or the purpose of the law in general, it is the attainment of the common good. Now, going back to the example, the Republic Act number 9775, the Anti-Pornography Act of 2009, this act outlaws or prohibit the production or the creation or let's say the distribution and possession of child pornography. So it is actually aligned to the general objective of the law of the general objective of law, which is to attain the common good, and that is the common good for the children. So Aquinas further defined law that is it is promulgated for the common good. Promulgated means to put a law or a decree into effect by official proclamation, or the other term for promulgated is um, announcement, the publication of a decree. So there should be an official announcement. So it means that an ordinance or decree should be publicized. It should be made known by the public. So laws that are promulgated or laws are promulgated, that is, they are made known to the people who are bound to observe them. Indeed, the public must be made aware of what it expected or what they expected um, from the law. So indeed, the public or there should be a public announcement of the law before it will become implemented or it will be implemented. There is a public announcement and a thorough discussion about the law. Now let's talk about what Thomas Aquinas have stated about the law. He further defined law as a one or promulgated for the common good by one who has charge of society. Now, laws are passed by one who has charge of society or who has the authority, because they can only be valid if they are the legitimate exercise of authority. So these are the person who can only pass a law, or who has the authority to pass a law. Now, who is the person, or who are these persons who has or have the authority? Accordingly, only those who have the power and responsibility to govern have the power to enact law. Now, in our country, we have three branches of government. It is the Philippine Constitution, which provided a separation of power to the legislative, the executive, and the judicial um, branch. If we say legislative power, they're the ones who makes the law. And if we say the executive power, it carries out the law, and followed by the judicial power, which evaluates the law. So a law here in the Philippines can only be valid or legit, or can be an active law, or can be called an active law, if it passes through these three branches. So the Senate member, or let's say a House of Representative, a member of the House of the Representative can make a law, then submitted to the whole Congress. Then the cabinet or the vice president, led by the president, carries out law, and the Supreme Court evaluates the law. Okay, now let's also discuss about the kinds of law. There are two kinds of law, general kinds of law: the divine laws and the human laws. Divine laws and human laws are either positive or negative. Now, let's know, can be either positive or negative. Now, if we say positive laws, these are laws that require the performance of an act, such as to worship God, or to pay taxes, etc. That is our responsibility as human, or as a citizen. So that is under law, under the law. So it permits and expects actions to be done. So in positive law, um, there is an expectation, or there is an action being expected. An act should be performed. So basically, the general idea of positive law is that you have to do such things in order to be okay, or um, in order to be considered a good citizen. Now, if you say negative laws, these are those laws that require the omission of an act. Let's say, for example, um, do not steal, or do not kill, or do not murder. So if you say negative laws, this prohibits the performance of the act, or of an act. This is the exact opposite of the positive laws. If positive laws are laws that should be performed, the negative laws doesn't need to be performed. There You don't expect to see an action being performed in negative laws. The law of things, or the negative laws, are actually referred to the laws of things you ought not to do, such as I've said, do not kill, do not steal, do not lie. So those are negative laws. So in negative laws, as long as you don't do such thing, then you are good. Again, in positive law, as long, or it is the idea that you have to do such thing in order to be good. So that's the difference between the two. Now, let's define or let's talk about divine laws, or the first kind of law. That's the divine law. And divine laws are those promulgated or made known to us by um, s- the special command. And from whom is that special command came from or comes from? Of course, that is from God, made known to us by a special command by God. That's the divine law. These are the explicit demands of our essential tendencies as rational beings. And these direct man towards his proper end. Now, what is this proper end? Remember our previous lesson, we have tackled about the summum bonum. If you remember that, the summum bonum means the greatest good. Now, if you say the greatest good, that is our proper end. That is our ultimate end. That is our goal to achieve the greatest good. Okay. Now, an example of a divine law is the Decalogue of Moses. This is a perfect example of a divine positive law. And when you say Decalogue of Moses, it is actually also referred to the Ten Commandments. Decalogue is derived from the Greek word decalogoe, which means 10 words. And these are, or this is the list or a list of religion precepts that, according to various passages in Exodus and Deuteronomy, were divinely revealed to Moses on Mount Sinai and were engraved on two tablets of stone. And then the commandments are recorded um, virtually or identically in Exodus 20, verse 2 to 17, and in Deuteronomy 5, verse 6 to 21. So if you want to know further about this Decalogue of Moses or the Ten Commandments, you may check on it on the Bible, yeah, under Exodus 20 to 2 to 17 and Deuteronomy 5, verse 6 to 21. Now, let's talk about, or just going back to the Ten Commandments, if you still remember, the Ten Commandments starts with, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have strange gods before me. Second is, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Third, remember that thou keep holy Sabbath day. Fourth, honor thy father and thy mother. Six, thou shalt not commit adultery. Seventh, thou shalt not steal. Eighth, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Ninth, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. And the tenth, thou shalt not covet their neighbor's goods. So I would like you to um, be familiarized about the Ten Commandments. I know you're already familiar, but you might as well just memorize again the Ten Commandments. Okay, now let's talk about the human laws. Human laws are those promulgated by a legitimate human authority. So this resides either, or the human laws resides either in state or in the state or in the church. Compared to the divine law, it is origin, or of course, it only resides in the church. But the human law, it resides both in the state or in the church. These laws are intended to preserve peace and harmony within a society, and to direct each member of that society to work towards the common good, which is the general objective of laws, as I've already mentioned a while ago. So, as I've said, the human positive laws or the human laws either resides in the state or in the church. So the laws of the state are embodied in the Constitution and in the Code of Civil Laws. Okay, so this one, the Civil Code of the Philippines, to be specific, here in our country. Now, the laws of the church are found in the canon law. If we're talking about canon law, it is actually from the Greek or the ancient Greek term canon, which is a straight measuring rod or a ruler. And this symbolizes the set of ordinances and regulations made by ecclesiastical authority or the church leadership, that is for the government of a Christian organization or church and its members. So an example of the human laws are the political laws. Okay, political laws. Now, if we are talking about laws are those enacted by men to guide their actuations in society and in relation to one, in which its objective is the peace and order and material prosperity. So that's the difference between the divine laws and human laws. But please take note that both divine laws and human laws originate from the eternal law. So suffice for the moment to say that eternal law is the design of God, God as the supreme creator. So to direct all created things to their respective proper ends. I've already mentioned what is this proper ends. It is the greater goods, and that is the mumbo nom. This is the ultimate goal of everyone. Okay, so those are the basic ideas about law. Now, to further lead you into knowing more about laws, specifically the human laws, I would like you to read this text entitled This is the Law by Jose C. Sison.